I'm sitting here with Chuck Bootlegger Wilson at his guitar distillery and warehouse for Bootlegger guitars. Chuck has a background in not only designing guitars like the Spade, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, but also designing race cars. And I see a lot of parallels between the Spade guitar and a race car. I'll talk about what I think the parallels are, but let's hear from Chuck what his background as a race car designer had to do with turning into a guitar designer.
Well, thank you, Dom, for the compliments. Appreciate being here with my friend. When racing, like we were racing street cars, Subaru STIs, and we have to modify them for performance rally racing. One of the things is having a stiff brake, or a brake that you could rely upon, not a soft brake like a street car. So we worked on developing parts that fit the Subaru STI and gave us a stiff brake, and it also allowed us to finish 3-day rally events.
This is a very tough guitar.
Okay.
And in racing, you have to have tough brakes. As a matter of fact, I often call Chuck the Carroll Shelby of guitars, because he's approaching this like he would approach building a race team. When you drive a race car, I understand that you use 2 feet, right?
Yes, sometimes 3 feet. But yeah, we're switching between the throttle, the brake, and the clutch. So yes, you're using 2 feet constantly.
Carroll Shelby, when he designed the Daytona, which was basically a hardtop Cobra, he designed it for the Daytona Raceway. And one of the main innovations that happened was he got an engineer that was hip to making better brakes, and that was one of his keys to winning. Now, this guitar weighs 5 pounds. It's headless. It's called the Spade. Supercars are made out of light materials. This guitar is made out of light materials. The tuners are down here on the other side from where the head would normally be. This guitar is much easier to tune because you can hold a note and you can adjust the tuners. And these tuners are probably more precise than the Grovers, which I've always liked. The metal on here is made out of aircraft grade metal. It's very light. The whole guitar is 5 pounds.
Yeah, actually aluminum to keep it light.
Right. Aluminum is a metal, but aluminum.
Mm-hmm.
And this is probably one of the toughest guitars you could ever have. It's not a toy. This is a professional guitar. I have a couple of clips that I want to play you, just run together really quick. I looked up reviews of the Spade guitar on the internet, and 2 of the reviews had people playing them, and I thought they sounded pretty good. The first one is from Tony from Addicted to Gear, and the second one is from somebody named Sam Bell. So we'll play those right now. They only take about maybe 20 seconds. I saw so many reviews of this guitar that raved about it. I have to believe this is the best travel guitar in the world. The case is just as small as this guitar. You can take it on an airplane and just throw it in the overhead. So when you travel with the guitar, you want to make sure you can keep an eye on that guitar. Also, you never know what baggage handlers are going to do. Stuff disappears. How did you get the inspiration for this particular guitar?
Well, 15, 20 years ago, I saw Johnny Winter in concert, and I love Johnny with his emotional killer playing. And he played originally at Hondo, and which was Mr. Erlewine's design, and then eventually Mr. Erlewine saw Johnny Winter playing the Japanese version and gave him an actual Erlewine laser. This is different than the laser, but that was my inspiration.
Those were headless guitars?
Oh yes, it was a very similar headless guitar. Mr. Ellerwine has different hardware. We developed our own hardware. We developed our tremolo system, but it was inspired by just watching Johnny Winter. He plays like 3 to 4 guitars. He did live in concert, and a good third of the set would be a headless guitar, similar to that. But I also wanted a travel guitar. Now, this is not a travel guitar. When I first introduced the guitar, I started getting irritated with it being referenced. It's a full-scale, solid guitar. It's like was said, it's not a toy. But I got more and more comments from buyers that they feel it's the perfect travel guitar. So
It is.
I go with it.
This
Yeah.
is a travel guitar, whether it was done by accident or not, but it's a real guitar. You could hear those clips that I just played for you. Also about this guitar is that it's made with good wood. Now, I've had guitars that fell apart on me that supposedly had good wood, but the wood wasn't dried properly. This wood is dried at 300 degrees Fahrenheit, which is well above the normal kiln dry for guitar. The grain on here is pretty. I don't know if you can catch it on the camera, but this is very nice grain when you're up close to it. Now, everything at Bootlegger Guitars is named after a kind of alcohol, except for the Spade and its companion, the Ace, which is a bass. That bass is being played currently in Casey and the Sunshine Band, which is a bass-heavy group. And that bass player actually played with Ronnie Wood for 3 years, and he loves that bass. He got it in white.
That is my friend, Stefan Langley.
Yeah,
Lane.
he comes in here all the time for drinks and cigars. He's a real
Yeah,
cool guy.
He's he drinks so much he has to bring me bottles, and he does. He is a real cool guy.
And he played for Ronnie Wood before he got in Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Yep.
But I call this the Bootlegger Guitar Distillery because all the guitars, with the exception of the Spade and its companion bass, the Ace, are named after whiskey. This one is not named after whiskey, and I'd like to know why.
I had a hard time with naming it, and everything about bootlegging, prohibition, illegal whiskey making, it's all kind of, to some people, it's out of the norm, or, maybe not considered
Respectable.
respectable. And I'm
We're
really,
not respectable, we're good. but we're not
I have a
respectable.
lot of fun with Bootlegger being not respectable, meaning I'm not a big corporate brand, so I enjoy naming everything kind of out of the norm. So the Spade is a card, and I just saw, in my mind, it was, probation, whiskey, illegal whiskey makers, poker players, all that just to me went together. So the name The Spade is simply off a card. And then the bass version, I built the bass version because bass players were begging me to make a bass version. So naturally I called it the Ace. So I was just going in the cards.
So together you have the Ace of Spades.
Well-
And I love the name, even though it's a diversion from what normally you'd be calling your guitars.
Yeah.
All of the others are whiskey guitars.
It's very interesting. I have a race car shop in northern Florida. I love the South. I love New Orleans. I live here in California. I'm not as deep in the names as I respect that you are. It was very interesting. So for me, it just kind of comes to, I really try to think in ways that are outside what a major corporation guitar company might want to use.
Yeah, I don't think there's any guitar showroom in town or anywhere in the country that serves alcohol and cigars, but this one does.
Well, I'm just waiting for the FDA or the police to come in and say, no more alcohol, what is ADC, what ABC?
As long as it's free, it's okay.
Yeah.
By the way, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Dirty Dom Daniels, but you can call me Dirty for short.
Dom has a long history of being a Hollywood, LA studio musician, and he's a killer guitar player. So when he compliments my guitars, I'm very pleased, very proud.
This is one of the sturdiest guitars that you could ever play. It's, as Chuck said, it's not a toy. And I've actually fallen in love with the tuners, because these tuners, you can hold a note over on the fretboard and then adjust it. That's always been a problem for me when I tune guitars. I don't like to tune with an open string, and with the headstock, you're almost forced to hit an open string and then tune it to that. But open strings don't have the same timbre as a fretted string, so I really prefer this style guitar. That's true. This is a really tough guitar. I like to throw it around, but then you might get a scratch in the finish or
Oh,
something.
no, you'll scratch the finish, but I don't think.
But the guitar won't fall apart.
So what it is, you should know, it's a maple neck, and then it has ash wings. So yeah, like this one, you can see it, the neck through construction, and you can see it's all solid wood. So yeah, I would take this into a battle dome.
And this is guitar you could play in a concert. Matter of fact,
I do.
you recently went to a Rolling Stones concert, right?
That's amazing. Yes, it's the SoFi show. Both Keith Richard and Ron Wood have a Spade, which is another story, but they use them in their, like in the green. I'm fortunate, I have a friend within the business of the Rolling Stones, and he introduced this guitar to Keith Richard. Keith Richard said to my friend that, yeah, I like it, send it to Pierre, my tech. And Pierre, I sent it to Pierre. Pierre gave it the thumbs up and gave it to Keith Richard. And then a couple months later, Ron Woods asked for one, so we sent one to Ron. This last concert, I was hoping, I was invited by the Stones to go to the show. I was in the corporate backstage. Unfortunately, I still have not been able to talk to Keith or Ron, but I have talked to Pierre and the tech, and he says they dig it. So I'm happy.
It's interesting synchronicity, because as I mentioned before, Stefan, who plays one with
Ron Wood.
KC and the Sunshine Band, he played with Ron Wood for 3 years. So there's some sort of circular energy going around this particular guitar. It's kind of a mystic item to me anyway.
There you go. I will tell you that if I saw them walk on the stage with one, I might die on the spot. It might just be like, I'm done.
They may have,
My life is over, but that's not happening.
they may have already done that for all he knows.
I've never seen a picture. I mean, truthfully, I've never seen a picture with them on stage. The idea was they liked them as I mean, it's just a great car to have, a guitar to have around. Look at you sitting there. You can just.
Oh yeah, I want to mention something about this, and then I'm going to play some clips that I did of the guitar. I'll play them right in a row instead of talking in between. But a lot of people that reviewed these guitars called them ergonomic. Now, honestly, ergonomic is a word I've heard a lot, but it's not really in my vocabulary, so I looked it up. It's more than being comfortable. Ergonomic design is something that postures up correctly. The guitar for sitting in your lap, I mean, with the strap it's different, of course, but for sitting in your lap, the natural position for a guitar player is to have a 45-degree angle, and this is cut perfectly to have a 45-degree angle. Now, when I was a kid, my guitar teacher liked classical music, and he wanted me to play like this, but I never liked putting a rounded guitar in my lap, and it felt like it was going to roll off. This guitar is made to do that, and if you see the clips that I'm about to show you, the guitar is pointing straight up like this. So I've got my ear right next to my fingers, and believe me, if you try playing like that, after a while you'll realize that if you're doing improvisation, which is my main thing, that you can improvise that much more deeply. Now, I'm going to save Chuck the trouble of giving me a wisecrack, but I've gotten a lot of flack from him because I wear very thick glasses that actually are like that you wear after cataract surgery when I record. Part of the reason why I do that is because, well, the less of my face you see, the better I look. But that's not
This
it.
guy's such a ladies' man. I don't believe any of that. And frankly, I didn't give him crap. Other people were kidding me that kidded him.
Yeah, he refuses to take credit for
I'm
the
not
crap.
taking credit
I'd be
for
proud if he did take credit for it.
No, Not my style, but you do
But
you do look kind of funny.
I wear the stranger glasses so that people don't confuse me with other artists. Joe Bonamassa, he wears sunglasses. Roy Orbison wore sunglasses, and then, you know, I was afraid people would confuse me with Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, and Jose Feliciano. So I have to wear glasses that are a little different.
Yeah, that's so
I call it
realistic.
trademark. And let me play you these clips now. All right, well, we're back. Those were just simple clips, but I thought that they were good because you can see the position that I'm playing in. Another reason why I wear the sunglasses, and the distinctive ones are just so that I don't get mixed up with other people, is that I play with my eyes closed, and it looks kind of funny to me in a video, playing with my eyes closed. I peek once in a while if I have to jump around on the neck, but there's been a proven thing with brain technology called hyperesthesia, which means that when you cut off one sense, another one becomes more enhanced. That's probably why guys like George Shearing and Ray Charles showed so much talent and were blind. More blood goes to the part of the brain that deals with auditory and sensory response if you cut off your seeing. And in this guitar, when you have your ear right up to the fretboard, it enhances it even more. So I'm really in love with this particular instrument, and I'm just amazed that it was designed to sit so perfectly in your lap. Pretty much that concludes what I've got to say about this, except that this is the best guitar of its type in the world, and I honestly believe that it's I got to ask Chuck about this.
Okay.
This guitar is disgracefully underpriced. Could you explain that to me?
Well, I am a grossly small boutique company, and I want to fill the world with wonderful guitars, so I have always priced my guitars with a percentage, which is low, of a profit margin. And so my builder, Ken Kim, builds it. I pay for the guitar. I add my discounted price onto that. And I honestly don't even know what I could sell this guitar for. This is the price range I've been selling.
Well, I think part of the reason is that this is factory direct.
There you go. It's factory direct. Yes.
When I was a kid, I come from a Jewish family, and Jews used to love to get a good deal.
You got through the front door?
Well, there was some country clubs they didn't let us do.
And I'm Irish. I'm the
But
bottom of the barrel.
but for a long time, you know, it used to be a stock Jewish phrase, I can get it for you wholesale. But then the other Jews started to one-up them and go, oh yeah, well I can get it for you for factory.
I've never heard this before, so.
Well, it's true. It's
Oh, your accent's coming out.
absolutely true. Well, my relative's accent is coming out.
All right.
It's absolutely true. So these are factory direct.
Yes.
I saw an interview with Joe Bonamassa recently because he's one of the biggest guitar collectors in the world. And some of the Les Paul Sunbursts are selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. And he bought a Flying V for $400,000. And he was saying in 40 years, those guitars are going to be $1 million. Well, I think in 40 years, these are going to be several $100,000. So my advice to you is instead of buying gold coins or bonds or Bitcoins, I'm serious.
Yeah.
I would buy these and put them away. Buying these guitars and warehousing them is the same thing. This is the best guitar you can buy in the world for this kind of a travel guitar. You can't get a better guitar. You could take it on any world stage and hold your own with any other guitar on the planet, and it's way underpriced. So my advice to you is get these while you can, because eventually I believe this company is going to be bought up by a bigger company, still run by Chuck, of course, and suddenly...
No, I'll be in Jamaica just listening to reggae music.
So suddenly these guitars are going to be worth like $2,000-3,000, and then they're going to go up from there. And these are the original guitars now, the ones that are being sold for less. So the ones that are being sold for less actually have more value than the future ones that are going to definitely cost several $1,000s.
I should put a disclaimer under that. This is not the, this is not coming from Bootlegger Guitar. This is coming from Dom.
I believe it 100%. I've played every guitar in the world. I'm not really a famous guitarist, but I've played about 200,000. No,
Well, if you're in LA,
200,000. I played about 2,000 sessions in my life.
Yeah.
I'm a meat and potatoes guy, and I've played every guitar and recorded with every guitar. When you record with a guitar, you really find out what it's worth.
Yep.
This guitar is beyond value.
If you've been in high-end LA recording studios, the stock of amps and guitars are amazing that you can pull off the wall. So I definitely believe you have played an amazing quantity
And
of
owned.
instruments.
I've played and owned. Also, last thing, bootlegger guitars are 100% consistent. I grew up in 1965. I was playing a brand new 1965 Strat. If you played 3 Fender guitars, they weren't the same. Matter of fact, even now collectors recognize that some Fender guitars just sound better than other Fender guitars. And with Gibson, the same thing, particularly the Les Paul TV models. Every one of them had a different sound from the others. When you buy a bootlegger, you know exactly what you're getting because everyone is so precisely made, and I think that's due to the factory that he's using, that you can rely on these guitars 100%.
Yeah.
One other thing,
Thank you.
bootlegging and race car driving, which I've thrown the analogy before, are heavily tied together because NASCAR started from moonshiners that were trying to outrun the feds with cars full of whiskey,
Yep.
bootleg whiskey, and then they became the first big drivers like Junior Johnson and all those guys.
Oh yeah, well, the history of it's amazing to read about. The bootleggers were making the hooch up in the hills, and they would drive it down to the city, and the police were, their job was to find and destroy the whiskey, so they had to outrace the police. And a lot of the police and the bootleggers were friends, so they started getting together on the weekends and racing. And that's the beginning of NASCAR. And some of the shops that did the performance upgrades to the stock cars that the moonshiners were using, they would do modifications that they wouldn't do to the police because they wanted the whiskey. They realized, well, the police get the whiskey and destroy it, they're not. So they were friends of the moonshiners, and that's why they always beat the police.
The police were on the take. However,
Of course.
However, the feds, they called them revenuers, and they weren't on the take.
No, that's correct.
And they had to be out. They had to be outraced, and these were all back roads with cars loaded down with gallons and gallons and gallons and gallons of whiskey hidden in them. So
the wonderful fruit.
So these guys really learned how to drive, and Chuck is kind of a throwback to several generations, and he's an amazing guy, and without Chuck Bootlegger Wilson, there would be no Bootlegger guitars. I hope to see you on our next installment where we'll talk about another model from Chuck Bootlegger
Yes,
Wilson.
we'll do that. Also look for some interviews I'm going to do with Dom. He's a little bit reluctant to share his life, but he was living in Venice during the Doors and all of the great music, the Beach Boys, and so I'm going to get some of that out of him, including his stories about Fleetwood Mac and lovely ladies. So look forward to that at the next interview video, not necessarily a guitar video.
All right, well, I'll drink to that.
All right. Thank you.